The goal of this video is multi-pronged. Step one is to exercise this Strat that's in the shop right now. Recently got this put back together. It used to be a black Strat. My father-in-law built this Strat and gave it to me about 7 or 8 years ago. It was a black Strat, gold hardware. I like black Strats, was never super crazy about the gold hardware and the pickup covers. But long story short, I stripped the paint off of it, and the resident artist in the house is very good at refinishing furniture, so I asked her to take a crack at this. The finish is actually inspired by a couple pieces that she's done. I'll show like some of the couple different shots, different furniture pieces that she's done around the house. But anyhow, I've always liked this Strat. It's got really good pickups in it. I think it's the 54 Freylands. And before this Strat, I had 2 other Strats. I had a late 90s American one, American Standard they used to call it back then. And I had the first Strat I ever bought was a Mexican Strat. It's either 90 or 91, which I actually liked that guitar a lot, but it was kind of noisy. I upgraded to what I thought was an upgrade to the American Standard. Never honestly really loved that guitar. I'm pretty much a bridge position guy, but with this one, the way it's set up, the neck position's actually great, because like in my previous Strats, it was always like you'd switch pickups and it was such a difference in volume. It was kind of unusable in like a live setting, but with this one there's none of that. And then it's also got the treble bleed thing, so it's at low volumes it also sounds good. So I'm going to demo a song idea that I have using exclusively the neck pickup on this guitar. So let me talk about quickly some of the things I'm going to do to record this. Goal 2, I recently picked up this amp. It's a Dr. Z Jetta Head, obviously. Been looking at Dr. Z for years, tried different models, different stores. Honestly, I mean, I've had my eye on this amp in particular, but honestly, it's not the first choice. I really wanted to get a Dr. Z Remedy, and I may still at some point, but those are few and far between. Obviously, he doesn't manufacture those anymore. They come up for sale every once in a while. But I really want to get the master volume version. Not that I necessarily need that in the way I use these amps typically, because I just plug them into an aux box, or I have it in when I have one in an isolation cabinet, so I can control the volume that way. But when and if I ever do play live again, it'd be nice to have the master volume. But this amp in particular, kind of what sold me on this one was, if you ever watch the Peach guitar videos with Jack, he does a really good demo of this amp in one of his videos. And then the other thing I really like also is that it only has 3 controls: a master, a tone, and a volume. I like that. Just, it's very simple. When I demo, what I'm doing with it as I demo this song, I'm gonna just leave. These are the settings I'm gonna use. I'll get some different sounds by just changing speaker cabinets that are modeled in the aux, but I'm gonna have the master pretty much cranked. The tone's gonna be 230, and the volume's gonna be at about 3. But yeah, I mean, I mentioned the goal, it is to exercise this amp, but it's also a little bit, just because it's new to me, to kind of compare and contrast it to the old trusty Deluxe Reverb. What else can I say about this amp? I think that's about it. Oh, one other thing, I'm not sure exactly how many parts I'm going to end up having on this demo. Maybe up to 6 in the outro, but I'm going to play each part once on the Jetta and each part once in the Deluxe Reverb, and have those hard panned left and right. So I'll have the Jetta on the right, and I'll put the Deluxe Reverb on the left. Here's the 65 Deluxe Reverb Re-issue that I use all the time. For the purpose of today's demo video, I'm going to use the normal channel of the volume on 8, treble on 6, bass on 3. And as mentioned, I'll have this hard pan to the left for all the Fender parts.
Tell me what you're selling. Tell me again.
Sound samples, just guitar parts I played, isolated from the mix into the 2 amps separately, obviously. So got my guitar, I'm in the neck pickup, volume set to 8. Once again, it's tuned to standard, but starting in D, so D, G, C, F, A, D. Into the Deluxe Reverb to start, normal channel, same settings I used throughout, volumes at 8, trebles at 6, and basses at 3. Into my aux box, using a setting called 4x10 pristine. There's a little bit of reverb on that. Into the interface has got a preset. I'm using a preset called Vintage Guitar. It's got a compressor, a little bit of EQ, and a preamp. And then into my Logic session, no plugins on that. right, same setup, going through the Jetta this time. Master's pretty much maxed out, tone at 230, volume at 3. Slight change to the setup this go around, back into the Deluxe Reverb. I'm using a preset in the aux called 50s Tweed, 60s mic, and I have a little bit of Boss Digital Delay DD3 set to kind of a slap back. Same setup, back into the Jetta this time. Back into the Deluxe Reverb, same setup. Another round with the Jetta, same setup. Okay, last part I'm going to run through, slight change to the setup. The delay pedal is off, and now I'm going to preset in the aux called Brown Sugar Room Slap. There's a little delay and reverb in that preset. Same setup, running through the Jetta. With the sound samples, clearly not a apples to apples comparison between these two amps. I don't know that the Jetta is really trying to be voiced like anything than itself. One thing I will say, and I'm going to try to, in editing, I'll try to match the volumes of the sound samples between the two amps, but the Jetta, the way I had everything set up, again, both amps were pretty much cranked. The Jetta's louder, it's a 30 watt amp. I think the Deluxe Reverb's 22 watts. So as far as how the recorded sound was, Jetta a little louder. Again, I'm gonna try to match those, because typically, you know, if it's louder, it's better, right? So I'm gonna try to negate that effect a little bit. And really, as far as doing this, it was, for comparison's sake, it's really for me, just to see what I have with this new amp. And for anyone else out there that comes across this video, happens to watch it. As far as usefulness, I guess it would be for someone that has access to one or neither of these amps and was just kind of interested in how they might compare as they're doing their amp shopping. Final segment in what is already a much too long video. But I want to just have a quick musical discussion. I'm not going to call this a lesson because I'm not qualified to do so. But like much of my musical output lately, it's a direct reaction to something I heard my favorite Uncle Larry say or talk about in one of his videos. And in this case, the video I'm referencing is volume 126. I believe he called it a hillbilly's approach to major tonality or words to that effect. Anyhow, proud homeschooler, represent with the t-shirt. But messing around with some of the ideas that he talked about, concepts that he talked about in that video, one of the things I discovered that I like now is the juxtaposition of using the major seventh on the 4 chord and then going to the 1. So let me set this up. As I discussed more than once during this video, the guitar's tuned down a whole step. But for the purposes of my fingers matching up with the positions that you may be used to seeing if you've made it this far, I'm going to call the chords what they would be if I was in standard tuning, starting at E. So in other words, this G7, because I'm tuned down to D, I would call a A7 just because of the position I'm in. But for this musical idea that I kind of framing throughout this whole video, I start on a A7 position, and I go from the 4 chord to the 1 chord, kind of like this. So, and another thing that Tom talked about in that video was bonus chords. So just adding other notes to your typical voicings to kind of start to develop some movement. So as I'm making that transition from the A7, A major 7 to the E, which is, this is a E9, I guess, I'm walking down the high E string. So I'm kind of putting that little melodic idea into the chord progression, like I said, creating some movement. Then I go to the 5 chord, and again, kind of a bonus. I got a sus, that's a 4, and the major, or the dominant 7 in the chord. Back to a major 7. Anyhow, like I said, one of the things that I kind of discovered messing around with Tom's lesson that I may not have thought of for myself, and that now I like the way it sounds, is just using a major 7 on the 4 chord and then going into the 1 chord. So that's it as far as that idea goes.